So we are here today with Penelope Jane Smith, who is the premier financial freedom mentor for women entrepreneurs. She's an author, international speaker, and certified trainer helping women get a handle on their money, figure out how to become financially free, and then chart a course to get there. Hey, Penelope, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, Christy. Oh my gosh. I am so excited to geek out with you about money. This is like my favorite thing in the world to do. And I adore you. And this is going to be awesome.
I'm so excited to have you here. We've been trying to get this together for a little while now, so I'm so pleased that we finally get to do this. Now, we're going to dig into something that you talk about that I love this concept, which is money dates, what they are, why we need them, and how to do it. But before we get into that, can you give us a bit of your backstory? You've got a really interesting story on how you got to where you are and really helping women entrepreneurs build their wealth.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a very painful story, but also educational. So I'm happy to bare my soul for the sake of everyone's learning. One of the things I talk a lot about is financial freedom and passive income because freedom is one of my highest values, right? And I was fortunate enough to have learned this concept of financial freedom and passive income when I was in my mid 20s. So I decided, okay, I'm going to invest in real estate and become financially free. And I took $10,000 of my own money. And in 4 years, I turned that into over $6 million in real estate.
Wow.
And I was on track to be financially free by the time I was 31, meaning I could, basically retire at 31. But then the real estate market crashed, right, in 2008. And everything changed. Like my amazing credit was ruined. I lost my gorgeous house to foreclosure. And I struggled and I struggled and struggled to make ends meet. And ultimately, I was forced to declare bankruptcy. So I went from having millions in real estate, almost financially free, to being millions of dollars in debt, scrambling to find a place to live and declaring bankruptcy. So it was like huge swing, right? And then as I was trying to figure out like where was I going to live and what was I going to do, I got invited to attend this high level mastermind group on Necker Island, which is Richard Branson's
Mhm.
private island in the Caribbean. And Christy, it was a $50,000 investment for this 6-day mastermind. There were no refunds, no payment plans. So if there was ever a time in anybody's life to say, I can't afford to do that, it would have been me right then, right? Because I had like less than $1,000 to my name, no credit since my credit was trashed. But I had this strong intuitive hit that somehow, for some reason, I was supposed to be there. And so I asked my inner credit to take a coffee break. And amazingly, I did it. And if we have time, I'm happy to share with you how I ended up doing it. But the important thing is like I made it to Necker Island. And I'm really glad I did because that was really the beginning of turning everything around. The facilitator of the group announced publicly that he wanted to win a Nobel Prize for single handedly turning the economy around. And that really inspired me. So I started asking myself, well, what could I do to turn the economy around? And so I'm like sitting there with this question one night at the very top of this billionaire's private island. And I got an answer. I got a download. Can I share what I came up with?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So here's what I found out, or here's the download that I got. I noticed that each person has their own personal economy that may or may not have anything to do with the overall economy at large. Like my personal economy was in the tank, right? I was in the middle of losing everything. But there were people on Necker Island and back home where I live in California that were having their best year in business ever while I was losing millions of dollars. So I figured if I could support enough individual entrepreneurs to create their own economy, their own personal economy of abundance, then eventually we would hit a tipping point and that would shift the economy at large. And so I started making microloans to women business owners in third world countries. So we'd have a positive global impact right off the bat. And I started focusing on supporting other women to make more money because that's something I'm really great at. And then as a byproduct, I ended up tripling my business, and fortunately, my business is now pretty awesome. It took us a while to schedule this interview because I just had my second baby. And it's really nice to be in that position of being able to bond with the baby and my 5 year old and not really have to worry about money. I'm able to make a healthy 6 figures. We're on track to cross the seven figure mark this year if I keep doing what I'm doing, which is not that much with the baby. So I think we're gonna hit it. I normally work like 25 to 30 hours a week. Right now I'm working maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. So I had plenty of time for the kids. I paid cash for my dream wedding, extra long maternity leave the first time, lots of awesome vacations. I have beautiful car, beautiful house, built my retirement accounts back up, all these things. And I'm really grateful for the level of financial freedom that I've been able to create in my life. And actually, just a few months ago, we bought our new dream home in Benicia with amazing panoramic views of the water. So, like, as I'm here doing this interview with you, I can look up above my webcam and see the water, and it's gorgeous. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this stuff with your audience and listeners, is because I've lived through some people's worst nightmares financially and lived to tell the tale. So hopefully I can help you avoid some of the painful and terrible mistakes I've made if you're listening to this. And if you have faced financial challenges like I have, then hopefully I can show you how to dust yourself off, recover, rebuild, like rise like a phoenix from the ashes, right? So that's where I'm coming from here. Hopefully that helps.
I love that idea of personal economy, and it's something you and I share is that passion for women finding financial freedom, because I think that's the key. And whatever freedom means to them, whether that's the ability to buy the dream house, whether that's the ability to spend more time with the kids, whether that's the ability to leave, a terrible relationship, whatever it is, the more financially independent a woman is, the better her life is. And I think the better the life of the community is as well as a result. Right. So I absolutely I love what you're doing.
Yeah, and there's a spectrum of financial freedom, right? Like when you can pay your own bills and support yourself and you don't have to depend on somebody else, there's freedom there. When you don't have a lot of consumer debt, there's freedom there. When you own your home free and clear, there's freedom there. Like there's levels. And when I talk about financial freedom, what I'm most excited about is what I would consider like the ultimate milestone on that spectrum, which is where the income from your assets pays all your bills, pays for your lifestyle. So you don't have to depend on your business or a job or a partner or an adult child or a government or anyone else for money, which means that you are totally at choice about what you do with your time and energy. And so to me, that's the ultimate freedom. And that's what really makes my heart and soul sing. Like I think about the movie Braveheart where it goes freedom and it just like lights me up, and that feeling of being unleashed and living from that place of freedom and joy is what really drives me. And that's what I want for everybody.
Agreed. Agreed. So you have an interesting concept. We're going to talk about a few things here today because you've got all sorts of great things to share. But I really like the idea of a money date. First of all, let's talk about what is a money date.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of my favorite things in the whole world because, as you know, I'm super passionate about financial freedom. And my goal is to support women entrepreneurs to become financially free in 5 years or less, starting from wherever they are right now. And the reason I'm passionate about women entrepreneurs specifically, even though I also work with people who have jobs, men, people of all ages, but women entrepreneurs are massively underserved by the current financial planning services industry. Like, I don't know if you know this, Christy, but most financial planning models are designed for men by men. And there's a natural gender bias kind of baked into the industry, just like a lot of industries. So it doesn't take into account women's longer lifespans, the difference in our career paths. Like right now, I'm with the babies, right? And so what ends up happening is statistically, women end up with less money at retirement, but it has to last us longer. And that really upsets me. So that's why I have a really special place in my heart for women entrepreneurs specifically. So when we talk about how to become financially free in 5 years or less, I do that through my wealth accelerator system. And there's four parts to that. There's mindset, education, systems, and strategy, or mess for short, because a lot of us are a hot mess when it comes to money. So when we talk about systems, the reason that I'm such a big believer in systems is because human beings aren't naturally great with money. Like the way our brains are wired, our natural human behavior has us do really stupid things with money. But if you can put a system in place that works with your human behavior and instead of trying to like overcome it with willpower, which doesn't work very well, then you're going to be more successful. And the reason I'm so excited about the money date is because it's like the one system that makes all the other money systems work. It's like in the Lord of the Rings, it's the one ring to rule them all, right? If you can do your money date, then everything else is easy. And that's what I love about it. In fact, I do a 3-day online event called Financial Freedom 101. And over the 3 days, we put all your systems in place to turn your business into a vehicle for creating wealth and freedom. So we look at how you're managing and saving and investing money wisely to become financially free. And the system at the heart of all those systems is your money date. So what the money date is it's kind of like date night. Like you've heard of having date night with your partner, right? So this is kind of the same thing, but with your money. And just like you have a relationship with your partner or a relationship with other people, you have a relationship with money. So how do you make that relationship really strong and amazing so your money stays with you, works hard for you, grows with you, right? The first step is to decide that money is important to you. And that doesn't mean that money is the most important thing in the world or that it's more important than other things like your health or your relationships. But you can still acknowledge that money plays an important role in your life since it makes it easier for you to buy things as well as save and invest for the future, right? So imagine you're in a relationship with somebody and you tell them, you're just not that important to me. How long do you think they're going to stick around?
Not long.
Right? Not if they have any kind of self-worth, right? So you can't really imagine or expect that money's going to stick around either if you're saying that it's not important. Like imagine me telling my 5-year-old, oh gosh, I don't even want to say what I'm about to say. But like imagine I look at in Gabriel's eyes and I say, you're just not that important to me. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to deal with you. I just want to pay somebody else to handle you. Like that's gross,
Yeah.
right? Like
Crushing.
it makes my heart sick to even say that as an example.
Yeah.
But how often do we hear people say that stuff with money? I just want somebody else to handle it. I just want to pay somebody else to look at it. I don't want to deal with it.
Especially with women,
Right?
I think too, there's this real stigma to, yeah, societal stigma, I think, to women wanting money and liking money and, more so even than men. So there's all sorts of internal barriers we need to get past as well.
Yeah, we have all these weird beliefs and attachments. Like it's not okay. Like when I say money's important, right? Well, it's not as important as my relationships or it's not as important as my health. I never said it was. I just said it was important. I think this whole thing of like, well, do you want health or relationships or money or health or money or relationships? I think that is like a very weird question. It's like, would you rather have your arms or your legs?
I'd like them all.
They're they're both important. They're all important. Like why do I have to choose? That's a ridiculous premise, right? Like they're all important. So if you can just acknowledge that money does play an important part in your life, that's going to be the first step in having a great relationship. Just like, your partner is important to you, your kids are important to you, your friends are important to you, your family is important to you, right? So when money is important to you, you're willing to spend quality time with it, just like with somebody you're dating. And that's why my all-time favorite tool for having an awesome relationship with money is this money date. And that's why we're talking about it today. So your money date, how it works is you carve out sacred time in your schedule to give your money your full attention, just like date night, right? You can do this weekly, every other week. I'd recommend at least once a month, but that's it. It's the sacred time in your calendar. There's a saying that goes, where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. Where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. So what I found is that when you pay attention to your money, you'll have more of it. And in the past, when I didn't have a regular money date, I would handle my finances randomly. I would pay bills when I got around to it, which meant sometimes I was organized, other times it was chaos. I always did tons of money in fees and mistakes that could have been avoided if I was just paying attention. In fact, I had a team member embezzle from me, Christy. So embarrassing. Like, and I didn't catch it for months, because I wasn't doing regular money dates. I wasn't really paying attention. And my money was basically saying, okay, well, if I'm not important to you, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Right. But now that I have regular money dates and not even perfect, right? Like I skip money dates, I move them around. It doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. But now I have clarity around my finances. I feel like I'm on top of things when it comes to money. I make way better financial decisions. So it's like, hey, do I want to invest in this mastermind or hire this new team member. Or, the other day, one of my team members just asked for a raise and I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And I have the information I need to make those decisions. So I love it. And I think you will too if you're listening to this.
And so much stress comes from the unknown as well. We put it off, we put it off, we put it off because we don't want to know. But the stress we're causing ourselves by not sitting down and actually looking at all of this is more often than it would be if we just looked at it, we dealt with it, and then the stress goes away. Or at least the stress of the unknown goes away. There might still be some stress with what you find, but it's still better to know than not know.
There is stress around unknowns for sure. And you might even be surprised to find that as you improve your relationship with money, your other relationships also improve. Like one of my VIP clients shared in our Facebook group that, she's got a master's degree in finance. She's worked for a hedge fund company. She's always been the one to manage the finances in her relationship. But now with their money dates, her husband is telling her, hey, we got our money date tonight. And he actually looks forward to logging in and seeing how their money's doing. And that was something that was a huge hurdle for them before. So she shared that she felt like money dates had really brought them closer together in more ways than just money. And she's not the only one that shared that. So I think it also gives you this wonderful opportunity for more bonding and intimacy if you are sharing your finances with somebody.
Excellent. So money date 101. What does it look like? What do we do?
All right, so let's dive into what do you actually do on your money dates. And actually, I put together a money date checklist for you. You can use it as a template. So if you go to moneydatechecklist.com, you can download this template. But it's really nice to have a checklist because then you know exactly what to do on your money date, right? And the very first thing you might want to do is if this is a date, you might want to set the mood. So one of my clients is a sex and relationship coach, and she's like, if this is a date, I'm going to wear lingerie. So the first thing on her checklist is she puts on lingerie, right? Some people will put on music and dance for a minute. Other people will get a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or tea. I like to light a candle. It's a very simple, quick thing, but lighting a candle makes it feel like this sweet, yummy ritual, instead of just another thing on my to-do list. So I really enjoy it. It feels special to me when I'm doing my money date and all it takes is lighting that candle, which is just a moment. So I would
I
encourage
love that
you
so much. You make it something that you look forward to, right? Yeah,
and that's part of the idea of setting the mood first, because some people really resist the idea of doing money dates. Some people are just like, oh yeah, let's do it. And other people are like, I'm scared. It's like you were saying, they're stressed around unknowns, but like they're scared. They're really scared to look at it. I've had some people just like break into tears at the idea of doing a money date. But I'm like, well, could you light a candle? Or could you dance for a minute? And it's like, okay, I could do that, you know? And what if winning is just doing that one thing? Like that's all you're committing to do is dance for a minute. Like if you can commit to that, you're done and you win. And maybe once you do that, you decide to look at the next thing on the checklist, or maybe you don't. So during your money date, after you've set the mood, you can find out how your money is doing by, reviewing your financial statements, reconciling your accounts, filing receipts. Like obviously it depends on you and your specific situation, what you do during your money dates. But I would use that money date checklist template and update it for yourself. And then how I have it set up is I have weekly action items, monthly action items, quarterly and yearly. And I have one copy of my money date checklist. I try to keep it to one page. I have one copy on my computer so I can change it and update it when I want it. But then I have a physical binder that I just pull out during my money date. I open it up and I look at what's that first thing on the list. So again, if you want my money date checklist template to model, you can get that at moneydatechecklist.com. But should I throw out some more ideas, Christy?
Sure. Yeah. Give us a couple more. And we're going to put that link in the show notes as well. So if you're driving and you're listening, don't try and write it down. We'll have it in the show notes and you can click over to it. But let's talk about just a couple more of those. There's just so many things I love about this. And I think As with anything, if you set aside the time for it, I'm continuously harping on people setting aside business development days in a lot of
Yeah.
our training, because if you don't set the time aside for it, it gets, especially if it's something that you don't particularly want to do, you push it to the side, you push it to the side, and then 3 months later, you're like, I have done no business development in 3 months because there's a million other fires to put out. So I love the idea of really setting this time aside, and it's a non-negotiable on your calendar. It's you're your most important client for that particular moment, and it gets done. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and hopefully it does become something you really look forward to and enjoy. I would love to do a money day one day a week, but there's just like other stuff I have to do. So I keep mine to about an hour usually. So usually the first thing I do after I've set the mood is I just like look at my accounts. If you have a checkbook that you're balancing, you might balance your checkbook, but basically reviewing your accounts, like seeing what your money's up to, and that allows you to see, are there any unexpected charges? Is there anything weird going on, or does it look like me and my bank are in agreement on what's happening? As an entrepreneur or business owner, I would recommend having a separate account for business and personal, if you don't already have that. If your business is structured as a sole proprietorship, I would say it's still important to keep them separated because it's going to help you keep really good records in case of a tax audit. And if you have your business set up as like a corporation, then like legally you're required to do that. So I would have separate accounts and look at it, balance your checkbook if you need to do that. One of the things that I have on the money date checklist is to transfer money to your prosperity accounts. So if you pull up the checklist and you're like, what does that mean? Well, this is something we go more into at my Financial Freedom 101 event, but setting up a money management system where you have specific bank accounts for specific purposes. Like maybe you have a special account just for putting money aside for emergencies, or maybe you have a special account just for setting money aside for taxes. Like how many of us have ended up with like a big tax bill and been like, and not have the money set aside. It's nice to just have that system there, or even saving up for a car or an educational program or a vacation. It's nice to have specific accounts, so specific jobs, as well as investing, right? That's really important. So I call these your prosperity accounts. And this step reminds you to transfer a specific amount or percentage to those accounts on a regular basis. I also put on here to pay bills, and I made a note to express appreciation. And what that means is a lot of people feel contracted when they're paying bills. So this is remember I talked about mess, mindset, education, systems, and strategy. This is a mindset thing. It's a prosperity consciousness practice of transforming that feeling of like stress or contraction into a feeling of prosperity and expansion. So this allows you to cultivate a sense of appreciation when you're paying bills by thinking about what you're receiving or have already received in relationship to that bill. So let's say, for example, you are paying your bill for the internet, right? Think about how amazing it is to have internet access in your house, like high speed internet right there into your home. Mind blown. Like I didn't have that when I was a kid. I remember, when we first got those modems and it was like ding, ding, ding. And I like made that sound. It took a while to boot up. And it was so exciting to put like white text on a black screen on like a bulletin board where other people could see it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm living in the future, right? And that's like nothing compared to what we have now. So like when I think about how amazing the internet is and how cool it is that we can, do this interview on Zoom right now, that's pretty awesome, right? So I can tune into that feeling of like awesomeness and appreciation instead of like, oh, there goes another, $85 or whatever. Um, so I think that's a really important distinction. And then I'll mention one other thing that's on the checklist so that you know what it is. But on there, I also have a note to review or update your cash flow plan. And your cash flow plan is another word for budget. The reason I call it a cash flow plan is because budget can be triggering for some people. But whatever you call it, it's an important tool for giving each dollar an assignment or a job before the month begins. This is one of the ways to get your money working harder for you. And that's something we go deeper into at Financial Freedom 101 if you want to check that out. So this step reminds you to create your monthly cash flow plan and then review and update it and make adjustments as the month goes on. So let's say you forgot to include a bill that's due, or something surprising happens, like my cat needs to go in and have an ultrasound. I didn't budget for that, so I need to adjust. So those are some things that you might want to put on your money date checklist, as well as like maybe doing a quarterly profit distribution or money making projects, money keeping projects. I have all of that on my checklist.
I'm going to check out that tool myself as well. So we'll put it in the show notes. And I love the idea of this. I'm going to start having money dates. Maybe order in some dinner, have a glass of wine, make it a night. I think that's amazing. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, we had alluded to, and we've got a few minutes. I would love to kind of circle back to this. You talked about specifically becoming financially free. And I know this is a whole topic on its own,
Yeah.
but I would love if we could use just a few minutes at the end here just to share some thoughts on becoming financially free in 5 years or less or whatever time frame. Some top tips just for women entrepreneurs, especially newer women entrepreneurs. We've got a lot of newer women entrepreneurs who listen to this podcast. A few tips to get them headed in the right direction, and then you've got some more great tools on your site that we can link in the show notes for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm working with people on charting a course to become financially free in 5 years or less, there's really three steps. The first step is to tune into your financial freedom vision. This is the quickest. It's like, what's the lifestyle you want to create? How much passive income would you actually need to be financially free? Like a lot of people don't have that clarity. And so I would recommend that you tune into like, well, where do you want to live? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of support do you want in terms of childcare? Someone to, cook your food, someone to give you a massage. What do you do with your time if you didn't have to work for money? Like some things are going to be the same as now. Some things are going to cost more, some things are going to cost less. And some of the best things in life don't cost any money at all. Like one of my favorite things is taking a walk with my 5-year-old. Doesn't cost any money, fills my heart with joy, right? Something that costs more is living in this beautiful house. So you kind of write out like what is that vision that you want, and keep in mind you can make like a basic, comfortable and luxurious version, because the basic's going to be the easiest to hit. And then once you hit it, you can then, expand it from there. It's easier to get more of what you already have, right? So I would go for kind of like an enough and then some version is like the first thing you really focus on, and then expand after that. I used to think I wanted like 8 different vacation homes and a purple Ferrari and a private jet. And then having owned 35 properties all over the US, I realized there's a maintenance energy to owning stuff. And I'm like, I don't really need to do that. And how often would I be going to all those places anyway? And what if instead I just took a really nice vacation wherever I want, whenever I want? That would actually be a lot easier. So kind of write out what is your vision for what you want your life to be like. And you start seeing like how you can live into some of that now. Like I'm pretty much living my financial freedom vision. It's awesome. And then put some numbers to it. Like how much passive income do you actually need? So once you know how much you need, like let's say you need $10,000 a month, right? Then the next step is to buy assets. This is the golden goose model of investing. This is where you buy something that's going to give you income that you can then reinvest, or it's going to grow and you can reinvest. So this is like you put money into the golden goose and the goose lays the golden eggs. And eventually you want a big enough golden goose that it's going to give you that $10,000 a month in golden eggs, right? That's the goal. And while you're building, you could just keep growing the goose. So you want to look at like, how do you grow your goose faster and how do you get it to lay more golden eggs? So for some people, that's all they need. And I'm able to help them become financially free in a few months because they just need to get their goose working better, right? Like the goose isn't really producing, but then once they get the goose laying golden eggs, then they're like, yay, I'm free, right? If that's not enough to get them there, then the third step is to fill in whatever passive income you need by creating assets. So creating new passive or semi-passive income streams that don't need a lot of money down or don't need any money down. So this could be anything from, royalties, licensing, online membership programs that don't require a ton of like your marketing and time. It could be drop shipping for some people. One of my clients, she has as a licensing deal for a supplement that she created where another company does all the fulfillment and marketing and manufacturing. And she makes like $70,000 a month in passive income from that.
Wow.
It's amazing, right? So those are the kind of things that you can just, you know, magically create. I actually have a free e-course on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and type in Penelope Jane Smith, one of the playlists says free e-course, how to make passive income. So if you want more ideas for how to make passive income golden goose wise, or, from scratch, then I would definitely check that out. So that's kind of the three steps, like your vision. So you know what you're creating, buy assets, create assets.
And you have an ebook as well?
Yes, the financial freedom formula like really walks you through what I just said and helps you figure out what's your magic number. So like how big of a golden goose do you need, to get the golden eggs you need? And it's a quick read, but super, super powerful and helpful. And you can grab that at financialfreedomgift.com and download that ebook for free if you use that link.
Perfect. Okay. And we'll link that in the show notes as well. Thank you for all of these amazing resources. There's
Yeah.
so much great stuff here that we can tap into.
And if you're like, I am digging this and you like my energy and you want to do a deep dive and like work with me over 3 days, you can check out Financial Freedom 101. That is giftfrompenelope.com. You can go to my website and buy a ticket. It's $497. But if you use that magic link that I just gave you, giftfrompenelope.com, you can come on scholarship. You just put down a deposit, which you get back after the event, because we ship you workbook and materials. And we only want to do that if you're actually planning to come. So that's why we ask for that refundable deposit.
Ah, that's amazing. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, this has been so much great stuff, Penelope, and I really appreciate it. One more thing I'd like to ask you, because we have a lot of newer women entrepreneurs that do listen to the podcast. Can you give us your kind of best piece of advice for a newer woman entrepreneur? And it might be finance, it might be something else, but something that you could share with them that would help them on their path.
Well, okay. So there's general, and then there's in terms of creating financial freedom. Okay. So I would say in general, the best piece of advice I can give you is to model success, because there are other people who have figured out a lot of stuff. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel and figure it out all on your own. I discovered that, I discovered my life purpose was to speak and train and educate people like I'm doing now, but I didn't know how to do that. So I decided to just do a workshop, invite everybody I knew, and I charged $10 for a 90-minute workshop. 9 people came. I made $90 at my first little event. And I mean, Christy, I was on fire. I was like, oh my God, I'm living my dream. I'm living my passion. This is the best thing ever. But then it was like, okay, $90 and I'm back to square one. And I've already invited everyone I knew. So what do I do now? Right. And then I went to an event where they taught people how to lead events and speak and write books and create info products and all these things I wanted to do. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I want. And after much deliberation, because I'd already invested a lot in myself, I decided to hire them as my mentors. And I did a 2-day event after that. I wasn't even done with the program. I started I did the first weekend of the program and then led my event. And in 2 days, Christy, I made $52,000 with like 20 people at the event. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that. And so that first year, I made about $220,000 in a brand new business, living my dream, living my passion. And it was all about modeling success. They gave me the templates, the skills, the scripts, the practice, the mindset, like everything. So that was the difference between trying to figure it out on my own, $90, and modeling success, 52,000, and then, 220 that year. And I've gone on to make millions and millions and millions of dollars since, based on what I learned from that program. That's really powerful. So I think sometimes we can be, penny wise and pound foolish and be like, oh, well, this program is $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 or, whatever. We seem to have no problem dropping $100,000 on a 4-year degree. I have my degree in Spanish literature. That has not helped me anywhere near as much as that program I mentioned did, you know? So why is it that we'll shell out 100 grand on a bachelor's of the arts, but then balk at, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 on something that's going to help you make a lot more money? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, whatever the price point, I mean, even if you're just starting with books and YouTube videos, model success. Don't try to figure out on your own. That is like the biggest thing I can share for entrepreneurs in general. In terms of creating financial freedom, start building your golden goose right now. There's no time like the present. Like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is today. So start now with whatever you can do, $1,000, $5,000, $100, $5, a dollar, just like start putting that money into buying assets that are going to grow for you and get that golden goose laying golden eggs for you now. It might not be really impressive in the beginning, but over time, the power of compound interest is mind blowing. And you will be so, so happy you did that.
So we are going to link all of those amazing resources from Penelope in the show notes. If you're driving and you can't write this down, the other place you can go to look for these things is onestepempire.com. That's the podcast website. And that's where you'll find all the shows, all the links, all the things. So it's onestepempire.com, and we'll have it all there as well. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today, Penelope. I really enjoyed this conversation. Go give that baby a snuggle for us all and enjoy your time. And thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chris. It went way too fast. I hope we can keep talking again in the future.
We absolutely will.